So, on Monday, as many of you probably know, the death of Sam Shepard was reported, even though he had died a few days earlier. And actually, on Monday, I rewatched a few of my favorite of his films. Um, I know a lot of people they think of me and they think that my favorites are Denzel Washington and Colin Farrell, and they are my favorites. But and David Lynch and some of these things that I'm very vocal about often. But my actual favorite person in the whole world, creator wise, was Sam Shepard. Um, he meant so much to me that I didn't even really talk about it that much because um, I don't know what to say, and so if you go through my blog, there's a lot about him actually. And his work just meant so much to me as a writer and as an actor. And I don't think I've loved anyone as long as I've loved his character in Baby Boom. Honestly, longer than Gabriel Byrne in Little Women. He is my true love. So I've spent the week very sad and rereading a lot of his work. And I had watched several favorites. And today I decided I went to the video rental store and a couple days ago and got some things and spent the day just watching some of his films that I hadn't seen before. And it was quite an experience. I watched 5 films and they were all so good for various reasons. And the the last one really punched me in the face. So I finished watching it a little bit ago and I had to sort of not think about it for a bit because I wanted to cry. So I'm going to try to get through this review without crying. Oh, shoot, I'm missing one of the films. Hold on. I had notes. Let me pick up this last one. Okay. So I started the day with a Sunday morning Western since it's been a while since I've done one of those. And this was Mateo Gil's Blackthorn. This is his English language debut, and in it, Sam Shepard is playing a fictionalized "What if Butch Cassidy didn't actually die?" Butch Cassidy. It's shot in Bolivia. It's this beautiful, revisionist Western, showing you just how shitty the West really was and how lonely these men and women who lived this life really were. And it's just a great layered performance from him, pulling in a lot of the themes that you see throughout his work, both as an actor and as a writer. It was a good film to start the day with. So beautifully shot. The cinematography is by Juan Ruiz Anchia, and it's all in Bolivia, and it's just unbelievable from the mountains to the salt flats. So if you like revisionist westerns, I highly recommend this. They had Stephen Ray was in this also, and I adore him. He's a great actor playing another broken man. And they had Nicolaj Coster-Waldau. He's from Game of Thrones, I believe, playing a younger version of Sam Shepard, and it was spot on casting. I kind of if they make a film of Sam's life, I kind of want him to play Sam. So the next one I watched, I got this from, I got both those from Videodrome here in Atlanta. 1984's Country, which was directed by Richard Pierce and written and produced by William D. Whitliff, along with Jessica Lange, who produced this film and starred in it. She got one of her Oscar nominations for this film, and it's a very hard look at the agri-economic policies of the Reagan and Carter administrations, and very much so Reaganomics, and the way in which they attempted to privatize the way farming was done and really messed up how farming had been done for 100 years and turned it into the way in which loans were done changed in the 80s. And it's very interesting to watch this film now because the way they were loaning money to these farmers based on the value of their land, when then the land became less valuable for various other economic reasons, has similar parallels to the way in which the banks were loaning money to people in the housing boom, or housing bust that caused the recession, except that this was the government doing it and not like private banks. And what I loved about this film was that it reminded me, it was shot and based in Iowa, but it reminded me of my hometown, except my hometown were ranchers and not farmers. And it was just so true to that way of life and so true to the feeling of that country and that part of our country and rural America, that it was like, it started making me have synesthesia almost, and remembering like the feed supply store and the auction yard cafe and all these things from my childhood that were just flooding back. It was kind of hard to watch at moments because it was too real. Just beautiful performances from everyone involved. Great chemistry from Lang and Shepard, obviously. They were in several films together, and I recommend all of them. The next film I watched, believe it or not, I'd never seen Steel Magnolias. I'd seen the play. We did the play in my hometown. I helped with the props. So I'd seen the play many times. I knew the play in and out. And part, I think, why I hadn't watched the film was, I know in the film they added the male characters that aren't in the stage play. And I just wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the changes because I loved the play so much. And I will say, I think the play is tighter and a much stronger way of telling the story. But the performances from all the women in this film, Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Daryl Hannah, Olympia Dukakis, and Julia Roberts, make it worth it. And the handful of men that are in the film really aren't in it that much. It's Tom Skerritt, Dylan McDermott, Kevin J. O'Connor, and the one, the only Sam Shepard. I feel like the only male character that really added something to the story was the Sam Shepard character, and I think that's because Sam Shepard is such an amazing performer, that I think this is a stronger play than it is a film. But it's definitely worth seeking out, and definitely try to see a performance of the play if you get a chance. I don't know, I would probably love it more if I hadn't seen the play first. It's one of those things. The next film I watched was Voyager, also known as Homo Faber. It's directed by Volker Schröndorff. He did The Tin Drum, so I was expecting a fucked up movie, and I got a fucked up movie. Screenplay is by Rudy Wurlitzer, based on a book, Homo Faber, by Max Frisch. And Max Frisch wrote this story because of his guilt of being a Swiss citizen living through World War II, and it's sort of a look at the main character is supposed to, in his sort of way of seeing the world, is supposed to be sort of a parallel to the way the Swiss interacted in World War II. This is a really fucked up story. It's told partly in flashbacks, partly in modern times. Sam Shepard is a engineer who first finds himself on a plane to Mexico. It crashes. He meets a man that turns out to be the brother of a man that he went to school with. Later, in another happenstance, he ends up on a boat. He meets a girl played by Julie Delpy. They fall in love. He decides to take her on a road trip back down to Greece where her mother is. On this road trip, spoilers, he discovers that her mother is his ex-girlfriend who later married the brother of the guy that he had met earlier. And he may have slept with his daughter. It's really fucked. And they have such great chemistry that you're like, I shouldn't be rooting for this right now. Oh God. He's stoic and amazing in this film, and maybe has never been so beautifully filmed. I loved this film. It's really messed up, but I loved it, and I highly recommend seeking this one out. It's from 1991. You like some, if you can handle the Tin Drum, I think you can handle this one. Tin Drum's pretty messed up. The last film I watched was 1997's The Only Thrill, directed by Peter Masterson. He also directed Voyage to Bountiful, which I haven't seen yet. This is based on a play. I can't remember who wrote the play, but the guy who wrote the play wrote the screenplay. It's about a man in Texas whose wife's in a coma. He starts sort of a friends with benefits thing with Diane Keaton's character, who is a widow, and they spend 30 years trying to make their lives work out together. Various reasons, it doesn't. Their children, played by Diane Lane and Robert Patrick, also have a similar relationship that also keeps not working out for various reasons. Keaton and Shepard obviously have amazing chemistry together. Robert Patrick, I've never enjoyed him so much as I enjoyed him in this film. I wish they'd given Diane Lane a little bit more to do, and Tate Donovan is great as this like womanizing best friend character. But what I loved about this film, like bits of it still feel very stagey, but there's some moments that have such amazing dialogue that I was like, I need to watch that again. That was such a great repertoire together. And Keaton and Shepard just light up the screen together. And specifically when Shepard is looking at Keaton, there's these moments of just amazing connection and amazing longing that just took my breath away to watch. And it's just a movie about being afraid to make a move, and being afraid to commit, and being afraid to express yourself and your feelings. And these are some things that I know well and that I struggle with. And so watching it, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die alone. And that's a thought I have a lot. So thank you, movie, for making me continue to feel that way. I recommend it. Seek it out. It's from 1997. Probably make you cry the way it made me cry. Any movie that has both Sam Shepard and Diane Lane in it clearly is aces in my book. Check all these films out. You can rent them. They're mostly on DVD. If they're not on DVD, you can get them from Amazon. Just keep watching the movies and read all of his plays. Read his short stories. He is such an amazing American artist, and I don't know what I'm going to do without him in my life. I'm just grateful that I have so much of his work to continue to inspire me.